Hi, I'm recording this video in a new area. If there's any background noise, whoops. But anyway, isn't it weird that I haven't made a video about Kirby? I mean, I have him on my current YouTube banner, and my most viewed video is about Kirby, but I haven't made a real video talking about the franchise. Well, might as well remedy that now. I don't actually own that many Kirby games. Hell, the very first game I owned relating to Kirby was Return to Dreamland. I did watch the anime though, right back at ya. It was the best thing ever released on television. Today though, I sadly won't be talking about that. From the title of the video, you already know. I'm talking about Kirby Superstar Ultra. This is a remake of Kirby Superstar, a game originally on the SNES. This is a standard platformer like other Kirby games, but with a twist. There is no large connected adventure. Instead, Kirby Superstar Ultra is a series of smaller games? Modes? Episodes? Whatever you call them, this is how the game is structured. You play through one mode and then you unlock other modes to play at any time. There is sort of an overarching narrative, but for the most part, these games stand on their own. And in this video, I'm going to go through each one, offering a quick synopsis and my general thoughts. Spoilers, obviously. I think that's everything, so without further ado, let's begin. Right, so when you start the game, you only have one episode at the start. There are some sub-games available, but I'll talk about those later. For now, we open up with Spring Breeze. The villainous King Dedede has stolen all the food in Dreamland. Naturally, Kirby is fucking pissed, so he runs off to go execute the king. It's a simple premise, and for good reason. Spring Breeze is a remake of the first Kirby game, Kirby's Dream Land. This technically makes Ultra a remake of a remake of a remake. Nice. Really, the only noteworthy thing about this story is the king himself. As weird as it is to say, King Dedede isn't really a villain. Oh sure, he is antagonistic in this game as well as Kirby's Dream Land, but in most of his other appearances, he's not the main threat. In fact, he actually helps Kirby more often than not. The next mainline game after this, Kirby's Return to Dreamland, even has King Dedede as an ally, a friend. At the time, I thought this was a weird decision, but looking back, it's not really out of character, is it? Anyway, now to the gameplay. I hope to God you know what Kirby is because I really don't want to explain how this game works. For a real quick breakdown, you are Kirby, a war criminal. You vore people to steal their powers and you use this to fight and solve puzzles. That's it, that's all the context you're getting. I want to say though, if you've never played a Kirby game before, this game will give you a tutorial on the controls and such, so that's nice. Spring Breeze is alright. My only complaint with it is that it's too short. And trust me, this won't be the last time I bring up length as a complaint. I can forgive it here though, because 1, it's a remake of a short game, and 2, you need to clear this mode before getting to the more interesting sub-games. It's basically a tutorial, and for that, it's fine. Obviously the main draw to Kirby is the copy abilities, and this game was the first to give abilities multiple moves rather than just one. When I say this game, I actually mean the original Superstar, keep that in mind. I'm not going to go over each power-up, but I'll try to bring up my favorite copy abilities when they come up. For now, I just want to say that I tried to grab the mirror ability and failed, and now I'm sad. At the end of this mode, you face off against the king himself, and Dedede is... well, he is indeed a boss fight. Kirby then turns into a giant balloon, and the credits roll. Holy shit, please slow down. And that's the end of Spring Breeze. Overall, I give it a pretty good out of 10. Now we can move on to the more exciting stuff. Gourmet Race. King Dedede, or as I wrote it, King D, has challenged Kirby to a race. A race that involves eating a fuck ton of food while running that cannot possibly be healthy. Whoever scores the most points wins. You race Dedede through 3 different courses. You grab food along the way to score points, and if you reach the goal first, you gain additional points at the end. There are no enemies, and you only get copy abilities during the 3rd course. This mode had potential, but with there only being 3 courses total, Gourmet Race is over before you know it. I think this is a mode that would have benefited from being expanded in Ultra. Like I said, I think this has potential. Plus the Gourmet Race theme is pretty good. I give Gourmet Race a tomato out of 10. Dynablade. Dynablade is causing a disturbance, destroying crops and mountains. Kirby's solution to this is to go up to her and say stop, so he heads off to do that. Dynablade is very reminiscent to Spring Breeze, with a few distinctions. For one, it has a world map. This gives you easy access to each stage, and you can find hidden areas in the stages that might take you off the beaten path. Also, at one point, this guy shows up, walks up to you, and triggers a boss fight. This is the only instance of something like this happening, and it's kinda random, not gonna lie. Another weird thing is that the stages in this mode don't have a dedicated boss. You just fight mini-bosses throughout all this, and then it takes you to a goal minigame. The only original fight is with Dynablade herself, and the fight with Dynablade is alright. I beat her without getting hit once, so yeah, pretty fun. If you know where to look, you can unlock these trial rooms. With these rooms, you have access to every copy ability in the game, and that's pretty cool. Sadly, because there's only 5 stages and you unlock the second room in the final stage, I don't really find it that helpful. There aren't enough stages here for me to warrant unlocking these, but they're so easy to find I do it anyway, damn it. At the end of this, it's revealed Dynablade was just trying to feed her chicks. This whole thing has just been a huge misunderstanding, and Kirby and Dynablade end on good terms. What a nice ending. I give Dynablade a bird out of 10. The Great Cave Offensive. In this game, your goal is to grab as much treasure as possible as you make your way through the cave. This is the largest sub-game so far. It even has save points built in so you can stop and play later. This mode is not one I revisit often. The way to the next area is generally either really obvious or can be found with brisk exploration. All of the extra pathways and puzzles are dedicated to the treasures. Different treasures have different prices, and damn, these treasures can be hard to find. For reference, in my most recent playthrough, I got a total of 25 items out of 60. You don't need to collect the treasures, they don't unlock anything major to my knowledge. I wouldn't know because I've never done so. I've never felt motivated to really go out of my way to find every treasure. But hey, if nothing else, you can spend quite some time on this sub-game. Can I just say that this cave is weird? Like, look at this, and this. Are we even underground at this point? I stuck to the wing ability for a lot of this. I've always really liked this copy ability. In terms of strength, yeah, it's not great, but you move so fast in the air with this one. I always grab this ability when the opportunity arises. There's a few bosses in this subgame. My favorite is the RPG one. You fight a slime that does nothing, Mr. Big Shot himself, and a wizard. It's a fun homage to JRPGs of the era. The final boss for this area is Wham Bam, aka Master Hand. Once you beat him, a warp star appears at the start of the cave. Where did this come from? Why did we need to pick up all the treasure? Don't ask questions. I'm giving the Great Cave Offensive an under out of tail. Revenge of Meta Knight. So you know Meta Knight, right? Kirby's sort of friend who may or may not be the same species as Kirby himself. He had a Spanish accent in the anime, and that was pretty sexy. Well, Meta Knight has apparently had enough of Dreamland's lazy lifestyle, so he's resolved to do something about it, by apparently conquering it himself. I guess that means usurp Dedede as king? I don't really know how he plans to do this. Regardless, Kirby is here to thwart Meta Knight's plans, and that's where we start. This game takes place mostly on the Halberd, Meta Knight's ship. Kirby makes his way through the ship while the crew are trying to take him out. This mode even introduces a new mechanic where characters will talk to each other on the bottom screen. This subgame is one of my favorites. Unlike the others, you are on a constant timer. This mode encourages running and gunning over everything else, and I love that. This one is also not broken into stages, meaning it feels like each section flows into each other really naturally. Throughout the story, Kirby is wrecking each part of the ship, the cannons, the wings, and eventually the reactor. The ship comes crashing down, but not before Meta Knight challenges Kirby to one last standoff. Meta Knight leaves a sword out for Kirby to grab. Kirby instead pulls out his trademarked gun, and Meta Knight says, "Wow, you make a fantastic argument." Meta Knight then stops his assault on Dreamland and the credits roll. After this whole incident, Meta Knight goes back to being an ally in games after this, so no hard feelings I guess. He even takes down the Halberd himself in another subgame, but more on that later. Revenge of Meta Knight is getting a meta out of Knight. Milky Way Wishes. In this subgame, the sun and moon are fighting. It's not clear why yet, but this is annoying the residents of Dreamland, to put it lightly. Suddenly, this guy appears. His name is Marx, and he wants us to seize the means of production, or something. I failed history. And with that, Kirby flies off to find the wish-granting comet, Nova, to end the sun and moon's trifle. Oh hey, is that the Star Rod? That's pretty neat actually. In this mode, Kirby is unable to copy the abilities of enemies. Eating enemies will just get you nothing. To combat this, you must explore each stage to find these copy essences. This will give Kirby permanent access to the ability. If you want to switch to a different ability, then you just tap the bottom screen and select what you want. Again though, you need to find the ability first before you can use it, so if you want something you don't have, well, tough luck. That is, unless you go to this star and get the copy ability. Yeah, there's literally an ability that gives Kirby the ability to copy the abilities of an enemy. You know, something Kirby can do naturally. It's pretty useless anywhere else, and I'm convinced it was only conceived for this mode specifically. I find the length of Milky Way Wishes to be almost perfect. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and there are enough stages to where I feel it utilizes its main gimmick effectively. What's even cooler is that you can actually do the stages in any order you want. This gives Milky Way Wishes a lot of replayability. Want to grab the ice ability early? Well, go ahead, nothing's stopping you. Want to do all the stages in reverse? Sure, why not? This subgame is one of my favorites because of that. The other reason is, of course, the ability to switch powers on the fly. It's a really fun feature, and I'm surprised that the idea hasn't been revisited since this game. Eventually, Kirby makes his way to Nova, who grants him one wish. In a twist that I'm sure everyone knows now, Marx betrays you and makes a wish for himself. He reveals that he was the one who got the sun and moon fighting. How did he do that? Don't ask questions. And now that he's tricked you into giving him ultimate power, now he shall... Okay, honestly, I don't know what he plans on doing. Whatever he plans, Kirby's hellbent on stopping him. Using the power he's collected on the journey, he forms a ship and takes off after Nova. This next part of the game is amazing. It just turns into a shoot 'em up section because screw it, why not? You even have a boss fight against the Nova Corps, and it's pretty fun. Once Kirby takes down Nova, he descends down to fight off against Marx. Marx himself isn't too bad. Oh sure, he hits hard, and he has a lot of attacks, but he telegraphs each attack pretty well. If you die, the game simply resets the fight, so you don't have to go through Nova again. Also remember, you have a ton of abilities at your disposal. Feel free to experiment and switch out powers. This is the final boss after all. With enough patience and practice, eventually, you'll go down. And that's the end of Milky Way Wishes. And excluding the minigames and the arena, it's also the end of the original Kirby Superstar. The credits reflect this as well, showing off scenes from all the subgames up to this point. However, we're not done yet. After all, I'm talking about Kirby Superstar Ultra here, and this game added some new subgames. Now, in fairness, they do reuse assets, but it's hard to complain about having new content to experience. So let's keep going with Revenge of the King. The title says it all. King Dedede wants revenge. He's looking to settle the score with Kirby, and Kirby obliges. If Spring Breeze was a remake of Kirby's Dream Land, then Revenge of the King could be considered a remake of that game's Extra mode. Stages and enemies have a new coat of paint, but the level design is still borrowing a bit from Spring Breeze. They are longer though, so it gets a bonus point. The mini-bosses are also completely new. I believe these guys originally appeared in Nightmare in Dreamland and maybe Squeak Squad. After a whole playthrough of fighting the same guys repeatedly, it's just nice to have new bosses to deal with. Also, Fan. Look how cute it is. Fan gives Kirby the suplex ability as well, another favorite power of mine. It's just so satisfying to grab an enemy and throw him around, you know? As you make your way to Dedede, you'll encounter a pleasant surprise. Kabula appears and shoots Kirby out of the sky. Then suddenly, Kirby regains his ship and you have to fight Kabula in a shoot 'em up section. Hell yeah. This is also another reference to Kirby's Dream Land, as Kabula first appeared in that game. And now we have the final stage, the Revenge. This stage introduces the greatest character of all time, Bandana Waddle Dee. He talks to Dedede throughout this, and both of them are losing their shit at the sight of Kirby barreling through the castle's defenses. Eventually, Dedede runs out of troops. He prepares his secret weapon, while Bandana Dee... Oh. Well then. Go, Waddle Doo, fight your brethren. This might take a while. Kirby reaches the arena where he fought Dedede originally. The stand's now barren, except for best character. And at the center lies the hammer ability. Grab it, and then... This is Masked Dedede, a souped up version of King Dedede. He has some new attacks and he set up an electric cage around the arena. He still isn't that threatening, but the context of this fight, the amped up battle theme playing, and the design of Dedede himself makes this battle really climactic. It feels like the culmination of Kirby and Dedede's relationship. This is my personal favorite moment from the game, but again, it doesn't take much to beat him. And that's the end of Revenge of the King. We get an oddly somber ending for this, like, geez, sorry man. A really solid episode and a step up from Spring Breeze, but I think I'd replay Revenge of Meta Knight and Milky Way Wishes over this. I'm giving it a D+ out of 10. Meta Nightmare Ultra. So, here we are. This is the longest mode in all of Superstar Ultra. However, it is also kinda cheating because this really isn't an original mode. Meta Nightmare Ultra is a time attack, taking the titular knight through Spring Breeze, Dynablade, Great Cave Offensive, Revenge of Meta Knight, and Milky Way Wishes. There is a unique boss fight at the end, but the level design is for the most part the same. I love this mode for two reasons. One, it's a time attack. I mentioned in Revenge of Meta Knight that I like speeding through this game, and this mode is all about that. Meta Knight even has an ability that makes him faster. Reason 2, Meta Knight is really fun to play. He can't copy abilities like Kirby, but he doesn't need to. Meta Knight controls very similar to the sword ability, with a couple extra moves to his arsenal. Plus, I think Meta Knight is stronger than Kirby, so he can rip and tear through enemies faster. But I'm ignoring the best part about Meta Knight, the wings. He can fly in the air like the wing copy ability, and suddenly Meta Knight just became my new favorite character. I'm so sorry, Bandana Man. When you defeat an enemy during this mode, you gain points. At the bottom of the screen, you can spend points on one of these options: increase your speed for a short period of time, or completely heal you and your ally. Oh crap, I completely forgot to talk about the co-op mechanic. Well anyway, you could spend a whopping 2 points to call an ally at a moment's notice. I think you can only summon Blade Knight though, that's all I got for my playthrough. Lastly, if you have a surplus of points, you can use this Mock Tornado skill to wipe out enemies and bosses. Use these skills to clear each level as quickly as possible. You don't have any goal beyond that. As for the story, well, there really isn't one. It starts with Meta Knight looking off in the distance, and then he flies off. Meta Knight wishes to become the ultimate warrior, and to do that involves beating up Dedede for some reason. Meta Knight then leaves without offering any context to go fight Dynablade, which he does. He does befriend the chicks though, I think. After that, Meta Knight decides to take a detour to the Great Cave Offensive. Seriously, I have no damn clue why we're even here. Meta Knight's not even looking for treasure because I guess Kirby already stole everything. That bastard. Next up, Meta Knight's crew must have revolted or something, because now he's taking down his own damn ship. We skip the last segment of this level as Meta Knight can't exactly fight Meta Knight, so instead we head to Milky Way Wishes. At the end of the 5th level, Meta Knight encounters Nova, and this is where things get interesting. Meta Knight wishes to fight the ultimate warrior. Nova responds by summoning a warrior so great he had to be sealed away. And now we're gonna fight him. I cannot possibly see how this could go wrong. So this is the final boss for Meta Nightmare, Galacta Knight. His moveset is very reminiscent of Meta Knight with some added flair. You should have a surplus of points by the time you reach him, so he shouldn't be too much trouble. If you want to have a fair fight with him though, well, don't worry, you'll get the chance soon enough. For now, we take out Galacta Knight, and he fucking explodes. So that's the end of Meta Nightmare Ultra. We're almost done with the game. Next up, let's finally go over those minigames. This shouldn't take long. These are an assortment of touch-based minigames. They remind me of the minigames you'd find in Mario 64 DS or New Super Mario Bros. They only require the touchpad to play, and I'm assuming you can play them with up to 4 people. These didn't really hold my attention for long. Maybe it'd be different if I played with friends, I'm not sure. You can also unlock the 2 original subgames in Kirby Superstar. These can be played with just one button, but again, they aren't that remarkable. You can finish both of these in the span of like 2 minutes. Now with that done, it's finally time for the arena, a Kirby staple at this point. In this mode, you fight an assortment of bosses in one go. You get a rest room in between fights where you can heal up and switch out abilities if you want. Alright, I think I can handle that. So, who's my first opponent? Oh. Well, now I almost feel bad. Can I admit something here? I just want to say that I don't think Kirby games are that tough. There are a few challenges here and there, but for the most part, I don't struggle much with these games. Keywords there being, for the most part. The arena is the one big exception. I suck at these things. You have a limited amount of healing, and you have 20 enemies to go through. I suck at boss rushes, plain and simple. Now, I don't find this arena to be too bad, honestly, but that's probably because it's one of 3 arenas. Helper to Hero. It's very similar to the arena, but you only face 13 opponents, and you play as one of the helpers. We got a lot of choices here, and oh shit, is that tech? Well, fuck everything, I'm going with my boy right here. The bosses in the arena are randomized, but I think Helper to Hero is always set. You start with Wispy Woods, and you end with Wham Bam, who gets a cool new form in this mode. The helpers play similar to Kirby, but some of them actually have different abilities. For example, Tak here is the one who gives you the copy ability. For this mode, however, he can't copy anything. He just gets a single attack. It does do decent damage though, and you can charge it pretty quickly. Plus, his guard makes him immune to all damage, so that's pretty cool. Once you clear Helper to Hero, you unlock the final mode in Kirby Superstar Ultra, the true arena. You fight through 10 bosses and mini-bosses. These include the new fights added in Ultra, including Mass Dedede, Wham Bam Jewel, and Galacta Knight. At the very end of this, you meet the true final boss, Marx Soul. It's basically the Marx fight from before, but now he's super pissed. I'll be frank, I got to this fight once and then gave up, because like I said, I suck at this game. You have even less health pickups than usual for this mode. I kept Spark through all of this. For this ability, you have to build up static by running back and forth. When you fully charge up, Kirby gets a shield that damages enemies, and the projectile you fire does really good damage. It's not one of my favorite abilities, but it was kind of the only reason I made it to Marx in the first place. I'm not gonna bother beating the true arena. I've done everything else, I don't need to prove myself. So screw it, that's the end. I'm giving all of the arenas an I don't care out of 10. Here's my tier list for all of the modes. At the top I have Meta Nightmare Ultra, and at the bottom I put the minigames. Please don't take this too seriously, I spent like a minute thinking of this list. Normally this would be where my ending thoughts go, but honestly I don't have anything more to say. I just really like this game. It's not my favorite by any means, and it's not even my favorite Kirby game, but it's just fun to play through. The sprites are wonderfully detailed, and the game oozes with charm. If you haven't played this yet, go right ahead. It's one of my favorite platformers on the DS. I don't know how to end this video now, so, mirror ability is still the best ability. Thank you and good night.